Hi, I'm Hannah. Welcome to my channel. We're going to talk about all the books I read in April 2026. And this is my cat, Lucifer. Hi, I'm Hannah. This is Lucifer, like I just said. And we're going to do a quick recap of all of the weird books I read in April, because April was a month for weird books and weird reading. To start with the Nobel Prize winning Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of Your Dead. Shit. All right, getting into it. First book I read, Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead. This won the Nobel Prize in Literature, obviously, but I can't even begin to tell you how weird this book was, but how exceptional and edge of seat I was for most of the book. I identify so much with the woman, the main character, who is just really pissed off at all of the people that live in her little village. A lot of the men are misogynistic and they don't take her seriously, and she's angry at them, and a lot of things happen. But there's some death, some mystery, and a lot of astrology. And it's really entertaining. And I will say that the ending was delightful, if not, I wouldn't say it was predictable, but it was within the realm of possibility. And I enjoyed the ending. I got to like the last 150 pages and I just like plowed through it because I needed to know, plowed through it. That was unintentional. I needed to know what happened. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. I will definitely reread this in a couple of years when my memory of some of the finer detail fades enough that I just remember how much I really enjoyed the plot and the ending. This was a really great book. Highly recommend if you like mysteries, if you like isolationism, women fighting against patriarchal, misogynistic douche canoes. Very entertaining. I enjoyed it immensely. This is the second book I read. It's called Prized Possession. It is the fifth book in the Carl Ahlberg series, which is currently being made into a series on Hulu. I think they've done the second season. I think they haven't announced the third season, but there probably will be. It's really good. It has Ross of Sutherland in it as Carl Ahlberg. Loved that series. That's what got me to read the books. I enjoy the books immensely. This is number 5. This one is bleak in a way that some of the other Carl Ahlberg books are not as bleak, mostly because you're dealing with a main male character, not Carl Ahlberg, but the villain, who is just not all with it and doesn't have the wherewithal to solve a problem in a reasonable way, and it just spirals out of control. I would say that the focus in this book is less on Carl and more on all of the ancillary characters in their town. I really enjoyed how a lot of the characters interrelate. That's just one of the hallmarks of her writing style, is she writes all these interrelated storylines that you don't really kind of see coming together until later. And this book did a great job developing all of the other characters in the book. I felt like Carl and Cassandra really took a back seat. So I really enjoyed this one, which was great because number 4 was particularly brutal. This is bleaker, but really strong character development. I read Iris Murdoch's A Severed Head. I read this when I was in LA, and I finished it the day I got home from LA because I was just like, I gotta know how this wraps up, because the back and the forth and the characters was wild. And this story is about a man who is having an affair, and his wife, he tells his wife, but she has, well, I take that back. A man's having an affair and he comes to his wife and she's like, P.S. I'm having an affair and I'm leaving your ass. And he spirals out of control, and it's wild. Eventually his affair comes to light, but there's those aren't even spoilers. Like, this is such an insane book. By the end of it, when I finished it, I told my husband that he just needs to sit still for a second because I need to walk him through this. And I got paper and markers and I was like, all right, we start with these characters. And then these characters are married or related somehow to these other characters. And then these characters are doing things over here with these characters. And I just had to explain this whole thing to him. And he's just like, this is nuts. It is. It was wild. It was a trip. It was amazing. Highly recommend if you like just sardonic amusement. Winner right here. Highly recommend. I accidentally started a book after A Severed Head. I bought this when I was in Oxford. It's called The Devil in Oxford by Jess Armstrong. I bought this when I was in Oxford, and it's been on my to be read pile, in my like read next pile, which that tells you about my to be read pile, that I have sub piles. But I didn't realize this was the third book in a series. And so by like page 30, I was like, I feel like I'm missing some stuff. And so I Googled it and I realized what I had done. So I bought the first 2 books of the trilogy or the series, whatever it ends up being. I bought those first 2 books, so they're going to show up in subsequent months. But I'll get to this one when I get to it. But from what I started, I was really interested and I'm really excited to read this book, but I need to catch up on the plot first. So that's gonna pause for a minute because I had this little bit of a non-starter here. I ended up only reading one more book for the month. They Will Drown in Their Mother's Tears. So I guess this is a second book that I read, which was translated this month, which is interesting. I didn't realize that I did that. Are these both set in Sweden, now that I think about it? That might be true. This book, I'm not going to figure that out right now. Polish. This book is Polish. This book is Swedish. Okay, that was what got me thrown off. Okay. You can take a moment for this book. If you've never heard of this book, very few books that are not chronological are the kind of storylines that grip you from the beginning to the point that you're like, I gotta see this through. And not just that, I need to know how this works out for the main character. I need to know how this works out for like 6 different people. This is a story of a terrorist cell that attacks a satirical writer. One person of the terrorist cell survives and ends up in a mental institution. And a few years go by, she reaches out to a writer and says, I want you to come visit me, basically. And he shows up and she starts to tell him this story about how she's from the future and she came back in time and she's not the person that they think she is. She ended up in this body. And she starts to tell him all of this information about this alternate Sweden where Muslims are discriminated against in really severe ways, and how that type of discrimination gets into your psyche and changes you fundamentally, like who you are as a person. And so when I tell you this book is going to stay with me for a long time, because the main character is trying to talk to this woman. He's trying to also manage being a Muslim in Sweden and all of the things that are happening presently that he is uncomfortable with, and he's afraid for his family. And then he realizes, as he's digging deeper into her history, into the history of the other terrorists in the terrorist cell, that there was potential torture going on, government-sanctioned torture. There's just a lot going on. And I can't give you a whole lot more than that, other than I had to finish it. I had to finish it in a way that I knew it was going to probably break my heart. But it felt like I was bearing witness to something that I needed to see, even if it wasn't going to have a good or a happy ending. Obviously it doesn't have a happy ending, but it has a very appropriate ending. But I feel as a reader that I was partaking of something that was really important, that I needed to bear witness to, because I think it parallels current ongoing discrimination that may be definitely happening around the world. I can't recommend this book enough, with the caveat that you need to be in an emotional place to be able to manage really understanding or analyzing someone's pain and grief. Because if you're not, it's going to be a harder book to get through. I took a bit of a moment after I finished this book, and I ended up not picking up anything for a couple of days to get through the end of April, because I needed a bit of a break. I'm glad I did that, because I started reading again at the beginning of May and was in a good spot. I'm reading, I've already finished a book, I'm almost done with the second book, so like May's trucking along nicely. But this book is gonna stay with me. If I were to pick my favorite book, which is actually really hard because these were exceptional books for 1 month. Like, this group right here was an incredible cast of characters to meet over the course of 1 month, and I'm really glad that I met them all when I did, because I felt like they actually built on each other in really meaningful ways. If I had to pick my favorite book of the month, it's actually really hard to do, but I probably would pick this one, even though it broke my heart, even though I felt awful in parts of the book. It felt like it was important, and it felt like it was relevant, and I needed that. So those are my suggestions of books to read. I didn't read any romance this month, but I am in May. I'm already in the middle of a romance right now, so I'm already trucking along. May is actually turning out really well. I got my D1 in, but that'll be a different video. So I'm taking a couple of days to do some reading, catching up on some house stuff, and hanging out with my family before I bounce back into dissertation work. But those are the books I read in April 2026. If you have any suggestions of books you think I should read, please let me know. I would love to hear what you've been reading and what you think is really awesome and what other people should read. As always, I will give you my unfiltered opinion based on whether or not I intend to read these books again. And I can promise you all of these are going to be read again, for sure. Yeah, 100%. So I hope you have a great rest of the week and a great May, and I will see you for another reading recap in a few weeks.